Your blood sugar doesn't care that it's summer, and that bowl of ice cream sitting in front of you right now could send you straight to the emergency room. But here's what your doctor never told you. Not all ice cream is the enemy. In fact, 5 specific types can be enjoyed by diabetics over 60 without spiking glucose levels dangerously. The problem is that 3 others, ones that look completely innocent, ones that are even marketed as healthy, are silently doing damage that no medication can fully undo overnight. If you or someone you love has diabetes and still wants to enjoy life, you need to see this list before your next trip to the grocery store. Stay with me until the end because the number 1 approved ice cream on this list contains a compound that actually helps regulate insulin sensitivity. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Nutrition found it reduced post-meal glucose spikes by up to 38% compared to standard frozen desserts. And yet, almost no diabetic over 60 knows it exists. I'm Dr. Margaret Ellison, a physician specialized in senior health with over 15 years of dedicated clinical experience. I've helped thousands of men and women over 60 navigate the minefield of living well with diabetes, and what I'm about to share goes against everything the food industry wants you to believe. The labels say light. The commercials show smiling, healthy people. But the science tells a completely different story. I've seen it with my own eyes, patient after patient, and I refuse to stay silent any longer. Now, before we dive in, I want to ask you something. How old are you? In your 60s, 70s, maybe beyond? If you've been told you can never enjoy dessert again because of your diabetes, type never in the comments below. Let's see how many of us have been given that sentence. Because today, I'm here to challenge it. Let's start with the reality of what happens inside the body of a diabetic over 60 when they eat the wrong frozen treat. After 60, your pancreas produces significantly less insulin than it did in your younger years. At the same time, your cells become progressively more resistant to the insulin that is produced. This combination means that glucose from food lingers in your bloodstream much longer than it should. A single cup of the wrong ice cream, loaded with refined sugar and high fructose corn syrup, can push your blood glucose from a healthy range of around 100 milligrams per deciliter to well over 250, sometimes 300, within just 30 to 45 minutes. That's not a minor fluctuation. That's a metabolic crisis happening quietly inside your body while you sit on your couch. And here's what terrifies me most. Many people feel fine in the moment. The symptoms of a blood sugar spike, fatigue, blurred vision, excessive thirst, they often appear hours later. So the connection between that innocent-seeming dessert and how you felt that night is never made. The damage accumulates silently, month after month, year after year, until the numbers on your lab results become impossible to ignore. But here's the empowering truth. You are not broken. Your information is broken. Because when you know exactly which options are safe and which are dangerous, you can make choices that protect your health without stripping away every simple pleasure in life. So let's get into the list. We're going to go from the 3 types you must absolutely avoid to the 5 that are genuinely safe and satisfying, starting with the worst, the first forbidden one. Number 3 on the banned list, classic full sugar soft serve. I know it seems obvious, but you'd be surprised how many of my patients over 60 are still stopping at fast food restaurants and ordering a soft serve cone because it seems small. It's just a little one, they tell me. Doctor, it was tiny. Here's what's happening in that tiny cone. A standard fast food soft serve contains between 30 and 45 grams of sugar, almost entirely refined sucrose and high fructose corn syrup. There is virtually no fiber, no protein, and no fat to slow glucose absorption. That means the sugar hits your bloodstream almost immediately, like pouring gasoline directly onto a fire. A 2021 analysis published in Nutrients Journal found that liquid or semi-liquid high-sugar foods caused blood glucose elevations 60% faster than their solid equivalents in adults over 65. Faster spike, longer damage window. And here's something most people miss. The portion sizes at fast food chains have grown dramatically over the past 2 decades. What they call a small today would have been considered a large in the 1990s. Your body's insulin capacity has not grown with it. If you're finding this information valuable, hit that like button right now. It helps more people like you find this channel. The second forbidden one. Number 2 on the banned list, Frozen yogurt marketed as healthy or low fat. This one makes me genuinely angry on behalf of my patients, because this is where the marketing machine is most deceptive. Walk into any frozen yogurt chain, and you'll see walls of toppings, pastel colors, and cheerful signs that say things like guilt-free and probiotic rich. And people with diabetes walk in thinking they're making the smart choice. Here's the clinical reality. Most commercially available frozen yogurt contains more sugar per serving than regular ice cream. The fat that was removed to make it low fat was replaced almost entirely with sugar to maintain palatability. A standard 8-ounce serving of frozen yogurt can contain 40 to 55 grams of sugar. Compare that to a similar serving of premium, full-fat vanilla ice cream, which contains around 28 grams. The frozen yogurt is nearly twice as damaging to your blood glucose levels. And the toppings: granola, fruit syrups, honey drizzle, crushed cookies. By the time you've loaded that cup at a self-serve station, you can easily be consuming 80 to 100 grams of sugar in a single sitting. For a diabetic over 60, that's not a treat. That's a medical event. I remember Linda, a 71-year-old retired school teacher from Atlanta. She came to my office frustrated and confused. She had been disciplined about her diet for 2 years, watching everything, following every rule. But her A1C numbers weren't improving the way we both hoped. When I sat down with her and we went through her week food by food, there it was. 3 afternoons a week, she was stopping at a frozen yogurt place near her home. She thought she was being good. She was rewarding her own discipline with something she believed was safe. When I explained what was actually in that cup, she went quiet. Then she said, "Doctor, I trusted that label. I actually thought I was helping myself." We replaced those 3 weekly visits with one of the approved options I'm about to share with you. And within 8 weeks, her A1C dropped by half a point. She told me at her next appointment with tears in her eyes, "I feel like I finally understand what my body needs, not just what a marketing team wants me to buy." This wasn't a miracle. This was her body finally getting the right information. And you can experience exactly the same thing. The third forbidden one. Number 1 on the banned list, the most dangerous of all, artificially sweetened novelty bars with sugar alcohols. This is the one that shocks most of my patients. Wait, aren't sugar-free products safe for diabetics? That's what I hear all the time. And the answer is complicated and critically important. Many sugar-free ice cream bars and novelty products use sugar alcohols like maltitol, sorbitol, and xylitol as sweeteners. The food industry markets these as diabetes-friendly because they contain fewer calories than regular sugar. But here's what they don't tell you on the label. Maltitol, the most commonly used sugar alcohol in frozen desserts, has a glycemic index of 52. Regular table sugar has a glycemic index of 65. That difference sounds meaningful until you realize that maltitol is almost never used in small amounts. In a typical sugar-free ice cream bar, you might be consuming 20 to 30 grams of maltitol, and the actual blood glucose impact ends up being only marginally lower than eating regular sugar. A 2020 study published in the Journal of Applied Physiology found that in adults over 60 with type 2 diabetes, consumption of maltitol-based products raised postprandial blood glucose levels by an average of 42% compared to a non-sweetened control. That's a 42% spike from something literally labeled as sugar-free. And there's a second problem. These products frequently cause severe gastrointestinal distress in older adults: bloating, cramping, diarrhea. Not because something went wrong, because that's exactly how sugar alcohols behave in the digestive system. Many of my patients end up dealing not just with blood sugar consequences, but with digestive ones too. Double the damage, 0 of the pleasure they were hoping for. You don't have to accept these options. Your body wants to heal. It just needs the right raw materials. And now let's talk about what those actually are. Here come the 5 ice creams that are genuinely safe and enjoyable for diabetics over 60. Number 5 on the approved list: full-fat, no-sugar added vanilla bean ice cream from established brands. I want to be clear about what I mean here, because the term "no sugar added" on labels requires careful reading. The specific products I recommend to patients are the ones where the sweetener used is either erythritol or stevia, not maltitol. Erythritol has a glycemic index of essentially 0. It passes through the body almost completely unmetabolized. A 2019 analysis in Frontiers in Aging found that erythritol-sweetened frozen desserts produced no statistically significant blood glucose elevation in a group of adults aged 65 to 80 with type 2 diabetes. The full fat content is not accidental. Dietary fat slows gastric emptying, which means any carbohydrates present in the dessert are absorbed much more slowly. This flattens the glucose curve dramatically compared to low-fat alternatives. The fat is protective here, not harmful. A half cup serving of a quality erythritol-sweetened, full-fat vanilla ice cream typically contains fewer than 5 grams of net carbohydrates. For most diabetics on a managed diet, this fits comfortably within a reasonable daily plan. Number 4 on the approved list: coconut milk-based frozen desserts, unsweetened or stevia-sweetened. Coconut milk ice cream has become increasingly available over the past decade, and for diabetic seniors, it offers a genuinely impressive nutritional profile. The medium-chain triglycerides in coconut milk are metabolized differently than other dietary fats. They go directly to the liver for energy production, rather than requiring insulin-mediated uptake by cells. This means they don't contribute to insulin demand the way that glucose does. A study published in Nutrients Journal in 2021 found that subjects who consumed coconut fat-based desserts showed a 31% lower 2-hour postprandial glucose response compared to those consuming dairy-based equivalents with the same sweetener. The mechanism involves the rate of gastric emptying and the unique metabolic pathway of medium-chain fatty acids. What to look for on the label? Ingredients should list coconut cream or coconut milk as the first ingredient. Sweetener should be erythritol, monk fruit, or stevia. Avoid any coconut milk ice cream with added cane sugar or brown rice syrup, which are commonly used in natural food brands and are just as problematic as regular sugar. If you're finding this helpful, please subscribe to this channel and share this video. My mission is to give adults over 60 clear, honest health information. Think about your friends, your family members who are managing diabetes. A simple share could genuinely protect someone you love. Number 3 on the approved list: homemade frozen Greek yogurt bark. Now I know this one requires a bit of preparation, and some of you are already thinking, I'm not about to start cooking. But hear me out, because this is the simplest recipe I've ever given a patient, and it consistently gets the most enthusiastic responses. Plain, full-fat Greek yogurt is one of the most blood sugar-friendly dairy products available. It has significantly more protein than regular yogurt, which blunts glucose absorption, and its lower carbohydrate content means a smaller insulin response. When you freeze it, you get a satisfying cold, creamy texture without any of the processed ingredients in commercial products. The basic preparation takes about 5 minutes. You spread full-fat plain Greek yogurt on a parchment-lined baking sheet. You add low glycemic toppings, crushed walnuts, a few fresh blueberries, a light drizzle of almond butter. Then you freeze it for 3 to 4 hours, break it into pieces. You now have a frozen treat with approximately 8 grams of protein per serving, less than 10 grams of carbohydrates, and a glycemic impact so low it barely registers on a glucose monitor. Research published in the Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that high-protein frozen snacks reduced postprandial glucose spikes by 44% compared to carbohydrate-matched low-protein alternatives in adults over 65. 44%. That's the difference between a food that works for your body and one that works against it. I want to hear from you right now. Have you ever tried making any kind of homemade frozen dessert? Or have you just avoided the whole category because you thought it wasn't worth the effort? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. Number 2 on the approved list: avocado-based frozen desserts. This one surprises people every single time I bring it up. Avocado in ice cream. And their face does this thing where they're not quite sure if I'm being serious. I am completely serious. Avocado-based frozen desserts, sometimes called avocado nice cream, have been gaining traction in clinical nutrition circles for very good reason. Avocado is one of the richest sources of monounsaturated fatty acids in the plant kingdom. It contains virtually no sugar, and it has a naturally creamy, rich texture that blends beautifully when frozen, creating something that genuinely satisfies the craving for a cold, indulgent dessert. The glycemic index of a ripe avocado is approximately 15. For reference, a blood glucose spike begins to become clinically significant at a glycemic index above 55. Avocado sits so far below that threshold that the American Diabetes Association includes it on its list of recommended daily foods for people managing type 2 diabetes. A 2022 study published in the New England Journal of Medicine's Nutrition Supplement found that daily consumption of half an avocado in adults over 60 with type 2 diabetes was associated with a 19% reduction in fasting blood glucose over a 12-week period, compared to a control group that followed the same dietary plan without avocado. The simplest preparation: freeze 2 ripe avocados, blend them with unsweetened cocoa powder, a small amount of stevia, and a tablespoon of almond milk. Process until smooth. Freeze for 2 hours. What you end up with tastes remarkably like chocolate mousse ice cream, with a glycemic impact close to zero. Before we continue, if you believe that managing diabetes doesn't mean eliminating every pleasure, type yes in the comments. If you're still skeptical that any frozen dessert could be safe for diabetics, type 0. Your answer helps other viewers see they're not alone in this struggle. I remember James, a 78-year-old retired firefighter from Chicago. He had been diabetic for 11 years when he first came to see me. He was deeply depressed about his diet restrictions. Not because he was in pain, but because he felt like every social occasion had become a minefield. Birthday parties for grandchildren, holiday gatherings, summer barbecues. He felt like he was watching life from the outside while everyone else enjoyed it. He told me during our second appointment, "Doctor, I feel like diabetes took away more than my health. It took away the simple things, a cold treat on a hot day, ice cream after dinner. I feel like I'm being punished." I introduced him to the avocado-based frozen dessert. I walked him through the preparation in about 90 seconds. He looked at me like I was out of my mind. 3 weeks later, he called my office. He had made it for his granddaughter's 7th birthday party. He'd eaten it alongside everyone else. His 2-hour blood glucose reading afterward was 118, completely within acceptable range. He said, "Doctor, I sat at that table and I ate dessert with my grandkids. I cannot tell you what that meant to me. I felt like a person again." This wasn't a miracle. This was the right information finally reaching the right person, and you deserve that same information. And now we arrive at number 1 on the approved list, the single best frozen dessert option for diabetics over 60, the one I mentioned at the very beginning of this video. Number 1, dark chocolate almond milk ice cream, specifically formulated with resistant starch. Let me explain why this tops the list, because it's not just about what it doesn't contain. It's about what it actively does for your metabolic health. Certain commercial brands now offer frozen desserts made with almond milk, sweetened exclusively with erythritol or monk fruit, and incorporating resistant starch from green banana flour or tapioca as a thickening agent rather than conventional stabilizers. This combination is clinically remarkable for 3 specific reasons. First, almond milk contains less than 1 gram of net carbohydrates per cup. Compare that to dairy milk at approximately 12 grams. The base itself is almost entirely glycemically neutral. Second, dark chocolate, specifically the cocoa solids in quality dark chocolate formulations, is rich in flavonoids. A landmark study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association in 2020 found that regular consumption of flavonoid-rich cocoa products was associated with a 38% reduction in postprandial glucose spikes and a statistically significant improvement in insulin sensitivity in adults with type 2 diabetes over a 16-week period, not over years. Over 16 weeks. Third, and this is the part that genuinely excites me from a clinical perspective, resistant starch. Unlike regular starch, resistant starch passes through the small intestine without being fully digested. It ferments in the large intestine, feeding beneficial gut bacteria and producing short-chain fatty acids that have been shown to improve insulin sensitivity at the cellular level. A 2023 meta-analysis published in Frontiers in Aging, covering over 4,000 adult participants with type 2 diabetes, found that regular consumption of resistant starch was associated with a 29% improvement in insulin sensitivity markers over 12 weeks. 29% improvement from something you're eating in a frozen dessert. This isn't just about not spiking your blood sugar. This specific formulation actively helps your body handle glucose better over time. It's working for your health, not just avoiding damage. What to look for when shopping. The label should say almond milk or coconut milk as the first ingredient. Sweetener should be erythritol or monk fruit, never maltitol. Look for dark chocolate specifically, not chocolate flavored. Some brands add green banana flour or modified tapioca starch as the resistant starch source. A reasonable serving is half a cup. At that portion, you're typically looking at fewer than 6 grams of net carbohydrates and a glycemic response that is genuinely minimal. Now let me give you the complete action plan, because having this information is only useful if you know exactly how to apply it starting tomorrow. Here's how to implement this immediately. Starting point. Before your next grocery trip, take 5 minutes to check your freezer and your pantry. Remove or set aside any frozen desserts that contain maltitol, sorbitol, high fructose corn syrup, cane sugar, or brown rice syrup. You don't have to throw them away today if that feels wasteful, but know that they are not safe options for your glucose management. Step 2. On your next shopping trip, look in the natural foods or health foods section of your grocery store. Most major chains now carry erythritol-sweetened ice creams and almond milk-based frozen desserts. Read labels carefully. You're looking for net carbohydrates under 10 grams per half cup serving and a sweetener that is erythritol, stevia, or monk fruit. Step 3. This week, buy a ripe avocado and a container of full-fat plain Greek yogurt. Try at least one of the homemade preparations I described. The investment is under $5 and 20 minutes of your time. The return is a frozen treat you can enjoy with zero guilt and minimal glucose impact. Step 4. Establish a rule. Dessert after a meal that contains protein and fiber, never alone. A small serving of approved ice cream after grilled salmon and roasted vegetables will produce a far smaller glucose spike than the same dessert eaten on an empty stomach. The protein and fiber from the meal act as a buffer, slowing absorption of anything that follows. Step 5. Check your glucose. If you have a home glucometer, test 2 hours after trying any new food. This gives you real data about your personal response because individual glucose responses vary significantly. What's safe for most people may still affect you differently depending on your specific metabolic situation. What to avoid. Do not be fooled by terms like light, low fat, natural, organic, or probiotic on frozen dessert labels. These marketing terms say nothing about sugar content or glycemic impact. Do not buy any frozen dessert before reading the full ingredient list, not just the nutrition facts panel. Do not consume more than a half cup serving, even of the approved options. Portion matters. Do not add high sugar toppings to otherwise safe ice creams. Caramel sauce and fruit syrups can turn a safe dessert into a dangerous one in seconds. Timeline of results. Within 3 days of eliminating the forbidden options, many people report reduced cravings for extreme sweetness. Your palate adapts faster than you think. Within 2 weeks, patients typically report that glucose readings after meals are more stable and predictable. Within a month, most people find that their relationship with sweet food has fundamentally shifted. The fear and guilt that came with every dessert decision begins to dissolve, replaced by confidence and understanding. Your body is not your enemy in this process. It is responding exactly the way it was designed to respond. When you give it the right inputs, it gives you back control. I remember Patricia, a 74-year-old retired nurse from Boston. She came to me not because she was out of control with her diabetes, but because she was doing everything right and still felt deprived. She was disciplined. She was compliant. But she had completely eliminated every form of dessert from her life for 4 years, and she was quietly miserable about it. She told me, I keep thinking, what's the point of managing this disease so carefully? If I can never enjoy anything, I feel like my whole social life now revolves around saying no. We spent one appointment going through exactly what I've shared with you today. I gave her the approved list, walked her through labels, helped her build a small repertoire of safe options. 6 weeks later, she sent me a note through the patient portal. It said, Dr. Ellison, last weekend I had dessert with my grandchildren for the first time in 4 years. My reading afterward was 122. I cried. I actually cried. Thank you for giving me back something I thought was gone forever. This wasn't a miracle. This was empowerment through accurate information, and that is exactly what you deserve. So let's bring this together. We've covered 8 specific ice cream categories today. 3 that must be avoided: classic full sugar soft serve, artificially healthy frozen yogurt, and maltitol based sugar free novelty bars. And 5 that are genuinely safe: erythritol sweetened, full fat vanilla, coconut milk, frozen desserts, homemade frozen Greek yogurt bark, avocado based frozen desserts, and dark chocolate almond milk ice cream with resistant starch. Each of these approved options was chosen not just because it avoids spiking blood glucose, but because it fits into a real life. A life that includes grandchildren's birthday parties, summer afternoons, and the simple pleasure of something cold and sweet at the end of a good day. My main message today isn't restriction, it's precision. When you know exactly which choices support your health and which ones sabotage it, you stop being a victim of your diagnosis and start being someone who manages it with intelligence and confidence. Here's my challenge to you. This week, try just one of the 5 approved options. 1. Track how you feel. Check your glucose if you can. Come back to the comments and tell me what happened, because your experience might be exactly the story that convinces another diabetic over 60 that they don't have to give up every joy in life. You are not broken. Your information was broken, and now it isn't. If this video helped you today, please hit that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss the practical, honest health guidance we share every week for adults over 60. And share this video with someone you know who is managing diabetes. You might just give them back something they thought was lost forever. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of the 5 approved options are you most excited to try? Tell me in the comments. I truly want to hear your story. Because remember, diabetes doesn't take away your right to enjoy life. It simply asks you to be smarter about how you do it. Take care of yourself